Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today I'm going to take a look at the case of Selena, a very, very famous Tejano singer, who was shot to death by her supposedly best friend at the time, Yolanda. So, what the heck? Um, why did she kill her? And so I'm going to get into all the psychology of this and fandom and how this all blew up the way it did blow up. So, anyway, I want to welcome you to the channel. If you're new here, please do consider liking and subscribing. And if you'd like to be in the chat room, like the folks that are here today, I do mostly patron-only live chats, and then I put the video up for everybody to see. But if you want to join in with the live chats, please do go to the link below, click on Patreon, and join. It's $5 a month, 8 lives a month in our community. If you don't want to do that, fine. Please subscribe, like the channel, like the video, and hit the bell for notifications because that's always important. And also check my playlist. And one more thing before I get going, because I have a new channel and I need to advertise it. I have a channel called Dear Profiler Pat. It is an advice channel. I hope I do better than Dear Abby. And I basically profile life, maybe your life, and you have a question, you send it in to me, and I try to answer it on the show. And you can always send it to profilerpatbrown@gmail.com and put in the subject line, Dear Profiler Pat, and also check the link below because it'll take you to my other channel. Okay, that's that. Let's get on with this case, and it's extremely sad. Anybody who's been in the public eye has often run into a problem with people who may become obsessed with them, and that's what many people think happened here. But before I continue, I want to give you the basics of who she is, because some of you are coming in here from other states. She's from Texas. So if you're coming in from other states, you may not have a clue. If you aren't familiar with Mexican style music, you may not have a clue. If you're from Ireland or someplace else in the world, you may not have a clue who she is. So let me read you a little bit. I'm going to borrow this from the True Crime blog, which I'll link below, since I'm borrowing some of what's written here because I thought it was written well enough to help people understand. Millions of music fans mourned on March 31st, 1995. When news broke that popular Tejano singer Selena Quintanilla-Perez had been shot and killed by her fan club president. Well, she wasn't quite the fan club president anymore. She had been, and now she was running a lot of her clothing businesses. She had been shot and killed by her 34-year-old Yolanda Saldivar in Corpus Christi, Texas. For the crime of first-degree murder, Saldivar received a life sentence. I think it was a 2-week trial and a 2-hour verdict from the jury, with no possibility of parole for 30 years. Well, this is why I want to do this show now. She's up for parole. It has been 30 years. And as she comes up for parole, Oxygen, in all its wisdom and greed, put out this movie called Selena and Yoland, The Secrets Between Them. It is on Oxygen, also Peacock, and I watched it. It's in 2 parts, and there's a whole lot of people who are very, very angry, especially her fans, extremely angry that they put this documentary out. And the documentary is very, very supportive of Yolanda, bringing in Yolanda to speak for herself, to say, I want my story told. It was an accident. I shot her by accident. And her family, her nieces, and I think a nephew, they come in, and they're going through boxes and finding things that prove that she's a great person and she didn't mean to kill her. And that this is put out just as she's going up for parole is rather disgusting. But I've been involved in documentaries before, and a lot of them do disgust me. And I'm very careful about ever doing documentaries. Oxygen did stab me in the back on one documentary I did by lying to me about why I was in it, and then editing me and basically making me look like a moron. It was great. and trashing my theory, because that was the whole point to begin with. So sometimes some documentaries are very well done and are legitimately good, but there are so many that are just put out there for the bucks, and they don't really care who they run over when they put those documentaries out. So if you watch it, which is the reason I watched it, is because I wanted to see what Yolanda had to say in her defense. As she's had 30 years to come up with a better story, and to see how they're presenting this to get her now to be humanized. No longer is she just a cold-blooded killer. Now we're supposed to see her humanity, and it's say it's a little unsettling, especially if you're particularly a family member and her family is pissed about it, or you're a fan. So, this is a good point. Princess says most documentaries just exist to make money, not tell the truth, and that is very true. A lot of times, if they have to choose between telling the truth and telling a story that is questionably not the truth, and that one is going to make the money, they'll go with the one that makes the money. We saw that with Netflix and Making a Murderer, one of the most biggest money-making documentaries ever, and full of lies and just absolutely horrifying. Stephen Avery was so guilty, it was ridiculous. And yet they did it so well that it stirred up huge amounts of people writing in to free Stephen Avery, free Stephen Avery. And it was appalling, totally defense-driven, and left out all the information that proved he was the one who committed the crime. Just awful. So anyway, I want to see what you mean. The TV industry isn't honorable? I always appreciate when I run into somebody who is. And I have worked with good producers before. I've worked on good shows before. There are some I've done and gone, I really appreciated this. But a good portion, I would say no. So I'm happier here on YouTube, where I am the producer and I choose the material and I choose what I'm going to say, and nobody edits me. So I don't even edit myself. So there you go. All right. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Selena. Beloved by many Mexican Americans, Selena, who was born in Lake Jackson, Texas. I just want to point out a little bit about her background, in the sense that a lot of people think they say she's Mexican American. She's actually third generation. She's American American. Okay. And it says here, one of the interesting things, she didn't speak Spanish. Now she's singing Tejano songs, which are from Mexico and are in Spanish, but she didn't speak Spanish. She grew up speaking English because her father was also born here, as far as I can see. So it says here, Selena Quintanilla did not speak Spanish fluently, but she did learn to become conversational in the language before her death. Her family spoke English at home. Her father, Abraham, taught her to sing in Spanish so she could connect with the Latino community. She learned the lyrics to Tejano songs phonetically and eventually took classes to improve her fluency. Selena also made many trips to Mexico on tour, which helped her learn Spanish. So that's just kind of cool. I mean, it just, I wanted you to understand, what her background in that. And another thing I want to point out, because I had trouble with this, I'm looking at her name, which is Selena, and I immediately said Selena. But in the back of my mind, I knew who she was. And I'm like, wasn't it Selena? But I'm looking at her name, I'm saying Selena, because that's how you pronounce it in Spanish. And so I actually went all over the internet looking for her pronouncing her own name, because when I went to the Mexican channels, they all said Selena. But I kept thinking, I hear Selena by the Americans. So I went to a channel and I found a guy who was interviewing her, and he said, so your name is Selena, or is it Selena? And she looked at him, laughed, and she goes, Selena. So Selena pronounces her name the American way, not the Mexican Spanish way. But her last name is Quintanilla, which is pronounced the Spanish way, because it's got QU in the beginning, and they don't pronounce the U as QU as Q in Mexico. So here we would say Quintanilla, but it's Quintanilla. So I found that kind of interesting. So she did not actually speak Spanish, but her name is Selena. But she did learn Spanish because she started having more and more integration into the Latino community, and also she was going down to, she started businesses in Mexico, so she was learning more and more Spanish. So she was quite an enterprising person and quite willing to learn and do it, all kinds of things. Now, next thing happened here is oh, that's funny. Sarah says, I see why she had only one name. Yeah, well, the last one is harder for people to say, so they'll just go with Selena. And it's a good name for just a famous, many J-Lo. How many people can you think of just use one name for the music industry? So, you speak Wenglish, Welsh and English. Wenglish, I like that one. All right. Now, she was on a verge of crossing over into wider English language superstardom. Only a month earlier, she performed to more than 60,000 people at the Houston Astrodome. Her first album was to feature songs in English, Dreaming of You, which was released a few months after her death and went on to be a hit number one on the Billboard 200 albums chart. And when she died, one of her most popular songs, in case you want to look it up, is I Could Fall in Love. Thousands attended her funeral, forcing the service to be moved from a funeral home to a convention center. She was that popular. Hold on a second. I have a slight cold. Not much of them, but just enough. Anyway, I personally love the Tejano music. I wasn't as fond of the English music. I like the Tejano music. I thought she did a beautiful job with that. And it was a hard industry to break into with that singing, because it's usually male singers in Tejano. And she managed to break into it as an American and a female. So pretty cool. All right. So I'm just checking here. Okay. Now, for the fans of the 23-year-old pop star, her murder was a shocking tragedy. But for those more intimately involved in her life, it was an event foreshadowed by multiple warning signs of Saldivar's nefarious intentions. And this is where it gets interesting. And unfortunately for Selena, this woman weaseled her way into Selena's life and became a massive problem, which she didn't realize until way too late. Yolanda Saldivar first met Selena in 1991 when she contacted Selena's father, Abraham Quintanilla, with hopes of forming a fan club. In the months that followed, fan club membership boomed, and Selena's relationship with Saldivar blossomed. As Selena grew more successful, Saldivar earned more responsibility. She was hired to manage a series of design houses and boutique stores that Selena opened. And she had her own set of keys to Selena's home. So she apparently contacted over and over and over again her dad, her dad was basically managing her career. And so she wanted to run this fan club, which she did. And she was successful at doing it. Now, I want to stop here just to talk about fans for just a minute. And I hope you all are mine and don't have any ill intent. Having been in the public eye for many, many years, I have had fans and I have had stalkers. And sometimes there's this line, the majority of people are just fans, and they're fans in the most well-meaning way. I mean, I've been a fan of people before, so I have fans in a well-meaning way, in the sense that we don't necessarily know each other because, we have that distance between us, either because of YouTube, I know all of your names that are here in the chat room, and I know a lot about you guys, but most of you have not met. So most people who, as they grow in fame, have a lot of people that are at a distance to them, either seeing them on TV or if they're doing music performing, or if they're an author or whatever. And they might see them on occasion, like if an author does a book tour, people are there and they sign their books, but, there's a line of people. And there's just different opportunities. People might have a chance to meet someone who they particularly like, their music, their what they say on TV, what their YouTube channel, or they may like them for other reasons. Maybe they're inspired by like all the things that she did. She's inspirational. She's a young woman working her way and developing not only the singing but the fashion industry stuff. I mean, and some people want a mentor. they're like, this person is, I would like them to mentor me, even from a distance, that I can watch how they do things, and maybe I can imitate that, and then I can become that. So there's nothing wrong with that. Some people just they just, that person is just like a what I want to say here, not just somebody they might want to become like, but somebody also that's represents maybe the things that they like too. And then there's people who fall in love with the person who they're a fan of. They fall in love, and that can be, a private little a crush, or it can become stalking, and it can become dangerous. Now, in my own life, I've had an interesting variety of fans and stalkers. The majority of my fans and all of my stalkers have been female. Men don't seem to go for me that much. Well, I don't know. It's just, that's the way it is. I have never had. I have tons of male fans who write me all the time and send me 10,000 emails or send me presents. I don't have that. I don't have that in real life either. I'm just, I don't know. My dating life is rather small anyway, for some reason, but my personality or whatever. But women tend to like me a lot more. So I've had women who just, really enjoy what I have to say there. They like to see a woman in this profession. They like to learn from me. And then there are the two others, which are the ones that can be more dangerous. Ones that fall in love and ones that want to be me. And the ones that have fallen in love, they usually send tons of emails, try to make phone calls, send presents, that kind of thing. And the one who wants to be me, I had the one case of a PI out of New York. She wanted to be me, have my job, and all of that. And so I used to, in the early days, I used to put some of the cases I was working on my website, and she would go to those locations, walk into the police department, claim she was working with me. She was a winner. And then she threatened me, and it was an interesting I got rid of her. I managed to report her to New York, and they took her license, and she threatened me. She would come after me with a gun. Now, if I can't be you or I can't beat you, I'm going to kill you, that kind of thing. So scary stuff. So, so there's different kinds, and there's different degrees. I mean, just because we really like somebody, want to spend time with them, doesn't mean we're a stalker, So in the beginning, when she sent the thing, I want to run her fan club, it's hard to tell whether she's just a person who really likes her music and thinks she's great and would like to be involved in some way that supports her and be that kind of a neat thing. It's a neat thing to do. And so she started that, and it went well. And so there was an appreciation for her. Now, the next part, I'll just stop here because I want to answer some questions. How do the stalkers get energy to do these things? Because they become obsessed. The balance goes off. It's one thing to have be a fan of somebody. It's another thing to then take that fanhood to a point where you're intruding in that person's life over and over and over again, or that person is intruding in your life, in your mind, so that you put, you have altars in your house with, the photos, and they're lighting candles to the person, and you're getting a little scary there. So when it gets to take up too much of your life or too much of their life, then you know there's a problem. There's a really great movie, by the way. It is called Fan. What a title. It is a Hindi language movie. There are subtitles. You can see it on Prime Video. Has one of my favorite Indian actor, who is the king of Bollywood, who I do have a crush on, and always have since the day I saw him. But I have not sent him an email or written him a letter or stalked him. His name is Shah Rukh Khan. And the fascinating thing about this movie is he plays a dual role in it. He plays himself. Well, he plays a guy who's like himself. He's a super popular Bollywood actor in this movie. And this younger boy who's like 20 years old, Like I think in this one, Shah Rukh was supposed to be like 40, and this guy's like 20, and he's from a small town, and he's obsessed with Shah Rukh Khan, and so he looks enough like him that he learns to dance like him, sing like him, play parts like he watches every movie. His whole room is plastered with the pictures. He wins contests that he is just like, he calls himself Junior, because he's not the actor, but he's Junior, and then he seeks him out, and all hell breaks loose, and it's really creepy. It's a really brilliantly done movie, and Shah Rukh Khan plays both the older guy and the younger guy, and it's pretty impressive. So if you want to see that, Fan, it's called Fan. Go to Prime Video, put in Fan. I think it might be on YouTube for rental too. Shah Rukh Khan, Hindi language movie, Fan, absolutely stunning movie. So anyway, let's go on. So now she's there. Now the next thing is interesting, where it says that as Selena grew more successful, so she started these boutiques, and let me show you some here. Hold on a second. Where's my picture? Here we go. All right. So now we have, this is when she's now actually doing a lot of things with Selena. And these are the boutiques Selena was starting. She was doing fashion design, designing her own stuff, taking it from the U.S. also into Mexico and into Monterrey, where she wanted to set up, production and all this stuff. And so where she started with a fan club, she eventually stopped doing that and became basically working for Selena for this particular industry. But she also became her best friend. Now, how did this happen? The problem was Selena was on the road so much and was working so much that she didn't have as much time to develop friendships where people who weren't always around her. So Selena took up that spot. And also Selena had a sister who also joined in. So since they were traveling together and working together, then they started going to the movies together and going to eat together and going dancing together. And they became friends. She was older than Selena, so she looked at her maybe like an older sister. So, and she certainly probably made her feel like, I care about you. I love you. You're like my little sister type thing. So Selena had somebody to gossip with, to talk with, to share her feelings with. So, and mind you, I think she's an extraordinarily manipulative person. So consequently, she will be able to be interested in all the things Selena was interested in. That's how it works. When a person is clever that way, what they will do to bring you in is to show interest in what you show interest in, as opposed to normal people who sometimes aren't interested in anything you're saying, immediately jump in and say, oh, but I do this. And then you're like, okay, let's talk about you. That's not what these people do. These people are very clever. And so they're like, oh my God, I just love whatever it is she's interested in or does. And that way you feel like you got somebody you can share it with and you feel closer to them. So it's a clever technique. So if you have somebody in your life who's doing that, are they being nice because they're just cool, nice people? Are they doing that because they truly have interest, or are they manipulating you? So be careful of that. So she became like big sis, and she was doing all this work with her, and it would appear things were going well. By the way, Selena did get married. She married. This is her. This is Selena and her family. She's so cute. She's really cute. Then she married this guy. This is Chris Perez. He was a singer too in the band, I think. And very young. And when she died, he just looks like he's about 12 years old. So a very young fellow. They hadn't even been married that long when all this went down. So now, what the hell went wrong, you say? All right. Let me find my spot here. All right. Hold on, more water. All right. So what were the issues? All right. In 1994, Selena had opened Selena Etc. boutiques in San Antonio and in Corpus Christi. The stores sold original clothes and jewelry, as well as offering salon services. By 1995, the boutiques were experiencing financial setbacks. Why is that? But that didn't change Selena's desire to open a clothing factory in Monterrey, Mexico. Now, I want you to hear about the setbacks. I didn't lose my spot. Make me lose my spot. Maybe this is it. Oh, here we go. All right. So now, what started causing the problems between the two of them, and whose fault was it? Well, we're going to hear from her side. She was very interesting because she's always the victim, and that's another sign of people who might be psychopathic. She's very manipulative. She is a pathological liar, and I'll show you some of these pathological lies are crazy. And she is always the victim. Always the victim, no matter what. Even when she shot her, she was still the victim. It wasn't her fault. So this is what happened. So now things are going pretty well. And Selena's really happy because she's going to Monterrey and setting up this whole thing. And this is what they find out. All right. When they made the agreement, by the way, when she became manager of the boutiques, then Selena assigned Saldivar as her registered agent in San Antonio, Texas. And after the agreement, Saldivar moved from San Antonio to Corpus Christi to be closer to Selena. So then, 1994, December, the boutiques began to suffer after the number of staff for both stores had decreased. Now, why is this? According to staff members, Saldivar often dismissed employees she disliked. Employees at the stores regularly complained about Saldivar's behavior to Selena, who dismissed the claims, believing Saldivar would not negatively impose erratic decisions on her fashion venture. This is how well this woman manipulated her. She pulled her so close that she couldn't imagine that she would do these things. And how often do we see somebody who is blindsided and says, I never saw it coming? The reason they don't see it coming is there are signs and there are people saying things, but because they're so close, they can't see it. According to her dad, the staff later turned their attention to him and began informing him about Saldivar's behavior. Quintanilla, that's her father, took the claim seriously. He told Selena to be careful and said Saldivar might not be a good influence. Selena dismissed her father's inquiries because he had often distrusted people in the past. Okay, so don't, if you're a cry wolf person, when you really want to tell somebody something, they might not believe you. And her father was very controlling and didn't trust people. But, again, he's in an industry where you can't trust a lot of people. So there's a problem here where how people view your distrust is like, are you overdoing it or are you being reasonable? And so she was thought maybe he's just distrusting one more person. I know, Yolanda. She wouldn't do that. By January 1995, Selena's fashion designer, Martin Gomez, her cousin Deborah Ramirez, and clients had expressed their concern over Saldivar's behavior and management skills. During an interview with Saldivar in 1995, reporters from the Dallas Morning News said her devotion to Selena bordered on obsession. So she was very devoted. So because of the apparent devotion, you would then think she wouldn't do things that would damage the relationship. However, devotion is sometimes obsession, or it is a controlling factor. She got massive power and control by manipulating Selena. Now, can you imagine? She was once a nurse. She's a nurse. I would say she was. Some people considered her, she's never going to marry. She's one of those women, and she's not. Some people thought she wasn't very attractive and overweight. So, in other words, she wasn't gorgeous like Selena, and men weren't falling at her feet. Some thought maybe she was a lesbian, and that's why men weren't falling at her feet. But she didn't seem to have any women either. But if she's looking at her life, here's a woman who is everything I'm not. Everything I'm not. She believes she owns the world. People are thrilled when she walks into a room. She's on the stage. People are cheering and shouting, and she's making lots of money, and she's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And who am I? I'm an overweight, getting into my middle age is nurse. I don't have much, and she's got everything. Now, when she managed to squirrel her way into her life, she starts getting that control over her. Can you imagine the thrill? She may be Selena, but I'm pulling some of those strings. I get to make decisions for Selena. I am using Selena. I this and I that. So she's probably thrilled about how she can do this with Selena. And also because Selena thinks that she's her best friend, she gets to go all these cool places with Selena. So she gets a benefit. Now, it's not wrong to become best friends with somebody who's famous and get these benefits, as long as you don't have ill intention as well, that, and you're harming them at the same time. So now it's starting to, the cat's getting out of the bag here as things aren't going well. Now, according to her dad, in January of 1995, he began receiving telephone calls from fans who said they had paid for membership in the Selena fan club and had received nothing in return for it, and he began an investigation. He discovered that Saldivar had embezzled more than $30,000 via forged checks from both the fan club and the boutiques. And what she would do is she would simply write a check. If you look at the one up on top, $1,642. That's very specific, but she wrote it to herself, which I think is kind of funny because, usually that number would mean something if you were specifically buying something, but who knows why she decided to make it look like, I don't even know, but she wrote it to herself. So she wrote a lot of these checks to herself. Later on, she claims, because she always has an answer, by the way. And a lot of times people who exhibit psychopathy will always have an answer for every question. They always will. It's usually a lie, but they'll have an answer. It's not like some of us who go, I'm not sure. She knew. She said, it's because Selena was asking me to write those checks to myself and then give her the cash so she could use the cash behind the back of her husband and her father to do things she wanted to do, like buy tickets to Mexico, because she was saying she's having an affair with a plastic surgeon doctor down there in Mexico. And I'll get to that in a little bit. So that supposedly the reason that all that money was taken was because she had her steal it. Now, the father confronts her that he had a meeting. Dad had a meeting with Selena and Suzette, I'm not sure who Suzette is, to confront Saldivar. He presented Saldivar with the inconsistencies about the disappeared funds. He told her that if she did not provide evidence that disproved his accusations, he would involve the local police. He banned her from having any contact with Selena. Didn't quite work, though, because Selena was on the fence about whether this is really true or not. Interesting enough, she didn't jump to her defense, however, and say, hey, no, she cashed all those checks from me. She could have said that. But if she didn't say that, either it's not true or she's hiding everything from her family. And so she's willing to throw her under the bus. And the interesting thing is she never says she threw me under the bus. And you would think if she's trying to defend herself later on, why didn't she say, she should have spoken up during a meeting and said, I told her to cash those checks, but she didn't. So she essentially ends up being the father saying, he'll contact the police and says, he took her, what else? She was supposed to no longer be involved in anything. However, Selena did not want to dissolve their friendship. She thought Saldivar was essential to the success of the clothing line in Mexico. She also wanted to keep her close, and this is very important, because she had bank records, statements, and financial records necessary for tax preparations. So she was struggling with two things. One, that did she really do these things to me? I've known her all these years, and she's done all this stuff, and I know there's been this gossip about her, and people have said these things about her, and Dad doesn't like her. But did she really do these things, or can I overlook that? That's one thing. Or the other thing is she's starting to believe it, but now she's panicked because she's been managing stuff. She has all the records. all the contacts, all the records, everything she needs to keep the business going and pay her taxes and do everything. She's got the records. So she's a bit trapped here. So then what happens is, let's see, it just really gets crazy. So after this meeting, okay, after this meeting, she claims, and she's going to claim this a lot, that she felt threatened by Selena's father and was unnerved by him. And why was she unnerved? Because she claims he slashed her tires, he shot through her windshield of her car, he cut her brake lines. All those reasons were why she was scared of him. Oh, but it gets worse. She's really more scared of him. Let me pull up just a minute. So first of all, she never reported any of that kind of stuff being damaged. But she's saying that he did all these things, not personally, but he's hired all these people to mess with her car. And now there's no record, as far as I know, that if your brake lines are cut, I would think you have to go get the brake lines fixed. If your tires are slashed, you would have to get the tires fixed. If there's a bullet hole in your windshield, well, she did supposedly get that done, and somebody claimed it looked like a bullet hole, but probably was, and probably was a rock. But she's making all these claims, and yet there's no evidence to back it up. On top of that, she claims that she's in danger from him because he wants to separate her from Selena so badly that he does these awful things like this. Abraham, that's the dad's name, Abraham Quintanilla. He stuck a knife in my vagina and he raped me a month and a half ago. He raped me in the apartment. Really? That's pretty wild. So he stuck a knife up in you and he raped you. You did nothing about it. You never told Selena. You never went to the police. What is going on? Why? But you're fearful. So you still hang in his circle, but you're terrified of him, never reporting to police or anything else. So you're just terrified of him. So, but that's not the only person she's terrified of. She's also terrified of this guy. Now, you wonder about this guy. Who's this guy? Okay, this is the doctor. His name is, let me find what the doctor's name was. I'm going to blank on the doctor's name. Hold on a second. Somebody give me where'd the doctor's name go? Hold on a minute, maybe it'll be in here. Okay, so, Martinez is the doctor's name, that's his last name. When she went to Mexico, he started supporting her businesses, and he became a confidant, and she spent a lot of time with him in Monterrey, and the one thing that Yolanda might have said that was actually true is that she might have had a short affair with him. Now, she spent a lot of time away from her husband. He was a very young fellow, and this guy was a mature, kind of like, he was like 20 years older, but a mature, wealthy, accomplished, and willing to help her in her business. You can see where they something could have happened there. He did eventually admit that there was a short affair. He was, yes, a married man. So anyway, they got too close, in other words. But now the issue comes down to whether he also threatened Yolanda, which she says he did. Okay. So when they went to their, when she went to Mexico, this is something else Yolanda's doing. She tried to clean out several bank accounts on which she was authorized to sign. One suspicious bank teller alerted Selena. Yolanda and Selena spoke on the phone, and Selena asked her to bring the bank statements, her cellular phone, and the missing perfume samples, which are all done, back to Corpus. On March 29th, while in Monterrey, Yolanda called Dr. Martinez at his office and talked to his secretary. She had been raped, and papers have been stolen, she told the secretary. She was in hiding when informed of Yolanda's message. He shrugged it off because he didn't believe her. Well, probably not. And let me see if this is the other one. Oh, yes, this is the other one. Supposedly, she gets to this, this is Yolanda. She goes to Monterrey. to his apartment, only to find Doctor engaging in sex with his nurse. I'm not sure how she got in the department to see him doing that. When Yolanda informed Selena, according to the scenario, Selena blamed the messenger. Yolanda was messing around with Martinez. So now, supposedly, again, Selena, everybody else is wrong. The doctor is having sex with the nurse. She's stuck in the middle, and Selena won't believe her, and Selena thinks she's having sex with a doctor. Thus, the rape story was fabricated. This is a story that I'll be coming up with this in a minute. So Selena and Yolanda ripped Yolanda's clothes before going to the hospital so Yolanda could prove to Selena that there was no presence of semen and that she didn't have sex with Martinez. So, okay. So she's got some wild things that she comes up with. So now Yolanda is terrified of both of these because supposedly also she claims that the doctor hired people to attack her. And she went into the bathroom and at this Whataburger place or something, went into the bathroom and these two guys came in and attacked her. Supposedly also she got raped in a car, I think, or something. So anyway, everybody's attacking her. Everybody's after her and everybody's attacking. Those are her claims. Now, they're pretty wild stories. Now, could these two men have sent somebody to scare her? I guess it's possible. But, when the stories get too many, include too many people and too many scenarios, you can pretty much be sure the person is lying pathologically. So she's now scared, she says. So she goes out to this place and she goes and buys herself a gun. All right. Then she takes that gun and, oh, by the way, this is some pictures of after she'd been beaten, which I guess they weren't entirely impressed that she had been beaten because she got a little smudge there on her chest. But other than that, maybe some bruise from 10 days ago. Hardly anything here. So the police weren't impressed. Anyway, so she goes and gets his gun and she shows the gun to Selena. And she said she got it for protection against all these people who are after her. And Selena basically says, and she's playing the victim again. She's playing the victim because she wants Selena to believe that everybody is doing this stuff to her. And if she doesn't side with her, she's going to say, you're believing all these horrible people and that they're doing these things to me. And you're believing it. And they're throwing me out of the company and all this stuff. So Selena apparently tells her, no, I'm here for you and all this stuff. And don't worry, return the gun. It's dangerous. So she does. She returns the gun back to the store 2 days later. And the police prosecutor believed, and I think it's realistic to believe. At that point in time, she thought she had Selena on her side again. So she wasn't really worried about anybody hurting her. She wanted to play the victim and have Selena feel like she had to jump to her defense because, oh my God, my best friend who I've known for all this time was handling all this stuff. She's terrified and I can't desert her. So she got what she wanted temporarily. And unfortunately, it was temporarily. So Selena, now when you watch that show, if you watch that show, you will see her family. Where is her family? This is Yolanda's family. So they're in the where'd my picture go? Oh, I've lost my picture again. Hold on a second. Oh no, here it is. All right. So Tina is the one who's kind of the one who's controlling everything here in Yolanda's family. They are in this documentary all the way through, going through boxes and talking about how nice Yolanda is and the true story, finding the true facts here. They point out here's a little heart here that was given to her by the Dr. Martinez, and see there was an affair, and somebody was truly after her because somebody wrote from Mexico. This letter came in while she was in prison. And it says, hola, Yolanda. Hello, Yolanda. And it's a long, long letter, like 3-page letter about how he was a chauffeur for Dr. Martinez. And he knows that that people were hired to do something to her, and all this other stuff about sex stuff and videos and God knows what. Was that real? There's no proof that it's real. So what bothers me of these documentaries is they allow them to present this as fact, and it's not fact. They just allow them to present it. Where's the person that is going to investigate this to see whether there's any truth to it, whether that guy even exists, or whether one of the sisters wrote that letter and sent it there so she could use it to say, hey, these people were after me. Who knows? Don't know. I find her pretty manipulative too, this sister, very manipulative. I'm not too fond of her. And it sounded the letter sounded very female to me, the way it was written. So I don't know that I believe that, but that in the show, they're pointing out the supposed affair, which looks like that could be true, and then how she was being chased and was in fear for her life. So that's where they're going with that. And they're also putting a lot of blame on Selena, that's why basically Selena and her family pushed her over the edge. And she didn't kill her on purpose, but she was so distraught. They're pushing the distraught theory that she accidentally killed Selena when Selena came to see her. Now you ask, how did Selena come to see her? Okay, well, when they were coming back, it just got to this point where Selena wanted to see her. Oh, by the way, they'll say things like, listen to these messages that came in. They all sound very friendly from Selena. So obviously they were still friendship. Okay. That's not necessarily true. I was traveling with a woman once. It was very short traveling. We lasted one day together before she acted very strangely, and she stole my luggage in Paris. and I wanted my luggage back because otherwise I had to go buy new luggage. And, I could have done that, but I wanted to get my luggage back. She said the only way you can get your luggage back is to be, and she gave me these rules, like basically apologize for something I didn't do, and be nice to her or whatever. I never spoke to her again after that. But I said, okay, maybe I was out of line, blah, 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 blah. And I was very nice. And she returned the luggage because she got what she wanted. But I got my luggage and just never spoke to her again. So Selena may have been doing that. She's like, I got to get these papers. My whole business is locked up in these papers. I need them off of Yolanda. So regardless of what the family says, just because she was being friendly on the phone saying, I need to see you, let's get together, I hope you're okay, that kind of thing, doesn't mean that the relationship was perfect or happy, or she wasn't still thinking that, it was all over and that Yolanda was keeping this stuff from her, as I think is a blackmail method. As long as I have this stuff, you can't run away from me. And I want to say this, what I think happened in this relationship was, I'll get your opinion on a second, then I'll go to the actual, what happened to her in the hotel and what the evidence proves. This was like a marriage. They got married when they started to work together with all the boutiques and stuff and spent all that time together. They were like a married couple. So they worked together. They did things together. They had fun together. They shared all their whatever. They were like a married couple. And this was the divorce that she did not want. She was willing to give up at this point, this woman, because she's now realizing something's wrong with her. Everybody's telling her that. She's seeing it, and she wants away from this person. But as we see in many divorces, when one person wants out and the other person is highly possessive and believes that if they lose that other person, they're losing too big. What would she lose? She loses to be hanging with a very famous person. She loses having this best friend partner. She loses being in the limelight. She loses all the reasons she wants to be here. She's going to go back to being a nurse. And although nursing is a great profession, it's not the same thing as hanging out with a huge celebrity who's still on their way up. That's a massive loss. So just like a husband or boyfriend who kills his partner when she leaves him or is planning to leave him. Same deal. So I think we oftentimes don't realize that a friendship or a working relationship can be as big as a marriage. So, and I'll get to that. Did she want infamy? Actually, that is often, I'll address that now, but it could be shooting. One thing fans like to do who may not even have ever met the person is to go and shoot them down or stab them to death for infamy. So they want to, they've never been with that person. Let's say John Lennon. And once he shoots John Lennon, his picture is right next to John Lennon in the newspaper forever. He will forever be linked for eternity with that person. Now he's famous and he's connected. And we see this in quite a few murders of well-known people by somebody you're like, who the heck is that guy? That's why they do it, because they want that fame, the infamy, to be somebody special and to be linked to that person, because that person has the fame and you don't. But if you can link to them, you get the fame as well. So thank you for bringing that up. Mike says, I suspect Yolanda had borderline personality disorder. It appeared she feared abandonment. Psychopaths do not fear abandonment and do not get attached emotionally to people. Oh, that's not true. You're mistaking the issue of the kind of attachment. A psychopath can be very attached to their automobile, just like all of us can. We love that automobile. We love it. We don't care about its feelings. We just love it. Well, cars don't feel, so that's not a problem. For people, psychopaths who marry somebody don't like it. When they bruise their ego. That's not just borderline personality disorder. That's you can't do this to me. That's one thing. Or you're taking away something I like. How dare you? You're mine. I own you. I possess you. Don't you? You have no right to take yourself away. There's whether she ever cared that Selena was happy, whether she ever cared that she may have been all over Selena as far as taking care of her, but didn't mean she cared how she felt. She cared how she felt. So, but the borderline personality disorder is the fear of abandonment. I've never been overly fond of the concept that that's the whole thing about borderline personality disorder. The glass is always half empty as some of their things. Never enough. Nothing's ever good enough. They still like power and control. So it's a lot of psychological crap. I'm not big on where we try to label every single thing. You could be borderline personality, but pretty much psychopathic as well. So you could. That's why I just go with a narcissism continuum. You're healthy. You're more narcissistic. You're very narcissistic. You're psychopathic. Somewhere on that continuum, and the rest of it is more in the eyes of the oftentimes eyes of the psychologist or the profiler than it is in reality. It's like they see, I see that they were afraid of being abandoned because their mother left them when they were 3. Is that really true? Is that why they're the way they are? And is that why they do what they do? It's hard. So I'm not big on that, just to let you know. So you can go to other channels and they'll do the whole psychology thing to death. And it's just not me. So, but I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just not into it. So, and again, all of people who are psychopathic don't necessarily commit murder. That isn't a requirement. That's where they would go with it. There's, most psychopaths are not violent. They're manipulative. They do all the other things. Manipulate, lie, have grandiose thinking, don't care about other people, no empathy. They don't do all that, but they don't necessarily go to murder unless murder is useful. Murder can be useful if it's a hobby, like serial killers. They enjoy murder, the thrill of it gives them power and control, and they enjoy it. So that's one reason for murder. Another reason is you're either useful or you're in the way. So my wife was useful till she became in the way. Then I killed her. Those are the things. Like put put a person toward murder, or you're being hired to murder. You're a sicario with a Mexican cartel or something, riding around your motorcycle, on the back of the motorcycle, shooting people down. You're an assassin. That's a job, So there's reasons for why people murder, and reasons why they just don't, because they don't need to, and it isn't thrilling to them. They'd rather get over on you by conning you out of a ton of money, by running a big company who rips everybody off. Who knows? Being Jim Jones. Well, he did end up killing people, but originally that wasn't the plan. So now let me get to the day this all goes down. So she goes and gets the gun. She returns the gun. So this is where the thought is that she was thinking she had gotten something out of whatever she wanted from her to believe that she was back in control to some extent. She wasn't in fear of her life. Otherwise, she wouldn't have given that gun up no matter what Selena said, because she knows the truth that these guys are after her, right? But things go downhill. And when things go downhill and she's starting to ask for stuff, she goes back and gets the gun back. So now she's getting the gun back because things are going badly with Selena, she sees that she's losing control of everything now. So she doesn't bring the gun back because she really thinks these people are after her, but because now what's she going to do with it? And the police believe that this was a premeditated murder. I don't necessarily think it was premeditated, but I would say she got the gun because she didn't know which way she was going to go at that moment in time. I need it back because I don't know what I want to do. She might have thought about killing her just so that she would be the final winner. Could be. Or she was thinking about using the gun to pretend to kill herself so that Selena would feel bad for her. Or she could have the gun just in case Selena said she was going to go to the police. There could be a lot of reasons running through her little head as to why the gun might be necessary. So then what happens is this. All right, let me find, okay, hold on a second. Trying to find out which one. Okay, hold on. So at this point, Selena was firing Yolanda. And so this was going to be a major issue. Selena was going to fire Yolanda, but Yolanda had some of the financial documents, like a whole bunch of them. She needed them to file taxes. I think she needed them more than filing taxes. I think she needed them because it's all her business information. Over the course of these meetings, she's trying to get together with him, during which time Saldivar continued to dodge providing Selena with the documents. And supposedly, she was also convincing her to keep her employed. That was before she went to get the gun, when she started realizing this is not going well. On March 30th, the day before Selena's murder, Saldivar returned to Texas from a trip to Monterrey, Mexico, and checked into the Days Inn and contacted Selena. They met briefly to discuss the documents, at which time Saldivar told Selena she'd been raped on her trip abroad. Okay, now, let me go. I want to go back to, a lot of people think she just came in one day and this happened. This is not the way it worked. Let me find this one part. I want to read Perez. Okay, I wanted to read her husband's account on this. Though she no longer wanted to work with Saldivar, Selena didn't completely cut ties with her. This is 2 weeks before. She trusted Saldivar enough to give her access to financial accounts. Now she discovered important financial records were missing, and she wanted Saldivar to return them. All right. So the first time she went to get them back, this is the first time, this is what her husband said, Perez, that Selena met Saldivar around March 15th in an attempt to get this missing paperwork. During the encounter, which took place in Selena's car, Saldivar apparently gave her some documents, though not everything. So she was giving these little piecemeal things to keep control of things. Then she showed Selena she had the gun in her purse. That's the time when, I'm backing up a little bit. According to Perez's account, she wasn't that phased. She said, you can return that gun, you're not in that much danger. So then, a week before her death, hold on a second. Let me move down here.
Successful people play this Sudoku
sorry
game
about
at
it.
least
Hold on a
30
second.
minutes per day
Stop.
to keep
Where
brain
is it?
sharp.
Oh, I hate this crap. Hold on, I gotta find the ad that just popped up. Where is the ad that popped up? I don't even know where it is. Hold on a second. Oh, shut up. Thank God. I hate these ads that just pop in with noise, you know? I don't know why they do that, but I guess because you can't avoid them. So the night before her death, this is where I wanted to get to. The night before her death, on March 30th, she called Selena to say she had the rest of the documentation the singer wanted. Though Saldivar reportedly asked Selena to come alone. Now, why would she need to say that? That's an interesting thing. Why does Selena have to have her come alone? That shows that she doesn't want somebody else to be there to observe what's happening, to protect Selena, or to make her do whatever she's got to do. However, Perez accompanied his wife when she went to the Days Inn in Corpus Christi, where Saldivar was staying. So she did have the, as in the earlier meetings, she didn't receive all the records she needed. So she left the motel without incident, returning home for a quiet evening with her husband and visiting her father-in-law. What she didn't know was that Selena now had the gun again. All right, so now let's get to the morning of the death. On the morning of March 31st, Selena met with Saldivar, who claimed she had been raped in Monterrey, Mexico. Selena took her to the hospital for an exam, became frustrated when Saldivar told a different story about how much she bled after the alleged assault. So one of the problems the psychopaths have is that they can't keep their story straight a lot of times. They're so inventive that they're coming up with whatever they think they need at that moment in time. And so what's very interesting to me, when I worked as a sign language interpreter, I got to hear this all the time because I worked in the hospital. I was a sign language interpreter for a lot of times in the emergency room. So the patient would be there. Doctor would come in and they tell the doctor what happened, and I would interpret that. That doctor would leave and a different doctor would come in and the story would change. And the third doctor would come in, the story changes again, and it would change, it would change. And the funny thing was, I'm sitting there through all of this going, you do know I know you're lying because I'm hearing all the story changes. But they're so psychopathic that they look at me and like, you can't report me because you're an interpreter. You're not allowed to say what I said. And that is true. It's against the code of ethics for me to rat out the person, right? So, but I could hear the changes. I was like, wow. And then the doctors would be all concerned, like, oh, because I did interpret for one person who always claimed she was raped a lot. And the doctor would come in and be very concerned because, this poor woman. And I'm sitting there going, rolling my eyes, and they're looking at me when I'm interpreting. I got to pretend I'm concerned when inside I'm going, she wasn't raped. She's telling the story. So anyway, that's when she started realizing even more that this woman was just lying about everything, So they went back to the room. Okay. And when they went back to the room, this is where it all went down. Now, what happened in the room? We will never know, in spite of the fact it's the story about what happened in the room is often stated factually as if it's fact. But the only one who knows what happened in the room is Yolanda, because Selena's dead. All we know is that Selena went in the room and Selena ran out of the room. That's the facts that we have. And she ran out of the room and she was shot. But what happened in the room is another matter. Now, what Saldivar claims is this. Well, hold on a second. My throat is really tickling. She claims. Oh, first, let me tell you what happened after. So essentially, she goes into the room, and then she runs out of the room, and she's been shot in the back near her shoulder, and she's bleeding. And she runs from the room to the reception to get help, for them to call 911. She follows her out with a gun like this, and then looks, and after she gets far enough away, she just turns around and goes back in the room. One of the ladies, cleaning ladies, claimed that she thought she said bitch, but I don't know. I agree with her family that that's a little questionable whether it's true or not, because she didn't admit that immediately. She said that later. So that would be nice to know, like, oh my God, she was really calling her bad names. But but the thing that interests me is that if she shot her and she didn't mean to, as she claims, you would think she would drop the gun and run out to help her. But she claims that she ran out there was still the gun. She was looking for her, which is a bunch of nonsense. Anyway, she gets into the reception and they say, what happened? And she's calling 911. And she says, Yolanda shot me. She's in room 158. So then she passes out and they take her to the hospital and she doesn't survive. So that's as much as they know. Now, there's another thing here we're going to see about how she's a liar. She gets in her truck, and a lot of people think she just got in her truck, and then there was an 8 to 9 hour standoff where they sent in a hostage team, because she was sitting in the truck with a gun to her head saying, I want to die, all this kind of stuff. And so this guy had to talk to her for like 8, 9 hours to get her out of the truck. So people believe she killed her, and in distraught, she sat in her truck and wanted to kill herself. Although she didn't kill herself, she managed to get through the 8 or 9 hours and didn't do it. But I don't believe that's what happened. Supposedly, she tried to get out of the parking lot. Now, mind you, she's in Texas. And after committing a crime like that, she has one of two options. She's going to get caught because they already know who did it. She's going to get the wrath of all the people's anger there. And she's going to be arrested. Or she can get in that truck and try to get the hell over the border into Mexico. And she's got relatives down there. Maybe she could hide in Mexico someplace. So I think she was going to go to the border. She just never got out of the parking lot. So when she couldn't get out of the parking lot, she went to plan B. Plan B was to pretend she's going to kill herself so that she looks like a victim. Oh, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it. And she says, and what's interesting when she's in there is she says things like, let's see, this is the hostage negotiator, Larry Young. She's in the truck going, I'm really scared. Well, because you're going to go to prison because we know you did it. I just want to die, although she didn't make herself die. I can't believe this is all happening like this. Well, that's an interesting point. Now, she's either trying to say it was an accident or she didn't. It's not quite an accident. I'll get into why I think it's not quite an accident. It's not quite premeditated, either one. I don't think I can forgive myself. Well, that's a nice thing to say. You shouldn't forgive yourself. And then what they're pointing out here, this is the media person. She kept saying over and over again, I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. Now, the accident thing, actually, she didn't say that for 4 hours. After 4 hours, the hostage negotiator guy said, if it was an accident, you couldn't he was just trying to calm her down. So if it was an accident, people will forgive you, blah, blah, blah. And then she started saying, yeah, it's an accident. Thank you for the idea, So she has gone forever after that this was an accident. No, I do not believe it was an accident because first of all, her story changes a lot. But let's look at reasons why it's not an accident. Let me go to the part where she's coming in I'm just looking for the part where they say what's in the room. One thing they found was her purse her purse was in the safe with I forgot, was $1,800 in it? Where'd that come from, huh? Could have been using that to go to Mexico. Maybe it was premeditated. Possible. In case something went wrong. I think she was good at having some, just not knowing where it was going. So maybe she was just making sure she had what she needed. Okay. So let me read what was in there. All right. So where is the part where it says what's in the room? Okay. It's not in that one. Let me try this one. She had, okay, so this is what they claim. This is one of the claims. Again, we don't know that this is true. One is that Saldivar finally acquiesced and gave Selena her records. But after Selena turned her back to exit the room, Saldivar shot her from behind, approximately 2 feet away, with a .38 caliber revolver. I have a problem with it. I have not seen any evidence that she actually gave the papers to Selena. In other words, if Selena had a whole armful of papers, right? Let me show you just an outside door. Okay, here's the door to the room. She was shot outside, by the way. So which is going to be very interesting. I'll tell you some of the different scenarios. She's shot outside, but out on the ground, there isn't a pile of papers strewn everywhere, which you'd think if you're carrying crap out, where are they? So I don't believe that story. I don't believe she ever got the papers. I think she went there and they had a discussion. Now, what she says happened was that, get this one. She says that Selena begged her to stay on. She didn't beg to stay on. She begged to stay on. She said, please don't resign. There was supposedly a resignation letter, but that's all questionable. How much that resignation letter meant, or who it went to, or whether, whatever, or that she did that because she knew she was being fired. But anyway, she claims that she begged her, oh, please stay on, because I can't run these boutiques without you. And if you leave, my father will take over everything. I need you, Yolanda. I need you so badly. And she says she wasn't going to stay on because, I can't stay on because your father and he's after me. He's scaring me. It's unsafe for me to stay on, so I can't do that. And then, Selena said, oh, please, Yolanda, please stay on. And then she supposedly puts the gun to her head and says, well, no, what you want me to do? Kill myself for you? I'll kill myself for you. And at that point, one time she said that the door was open this whole time. I don't understand this door being open the whole time, by the way. So the door is open, and she tells Selena to go shut the door. And when Selena goes to shut the door, she tells her, shut the door. And she accidentally shoots the gun and hits Selena. And so Selena then keeps going out of the room. Now, I'm pretty sure that somebody's got to, first of all, I don't understand why the door's open the whole time. I mean, if I go to visit somebody, I'm going to discuss a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to leave the freaking door open. I mean, why is that being done? So the door should have been closed for them to go through all this discussion. Next, if there's somebody, I'm in a room with somebody's putting a gun to their head, I'd rather not be there. I'm not going to close the door with a crazy woman and shut myself in with her. So that makes no sense. That Selena would say, okay, I know you got the gun and you're all freaked out, so let me just shut the door. And yeah, I think I'd leave. But I think she wasn't shutting the door. She was trying to get the heck out of there. And why do I think she was trying to get the heck out of there at that time? Because the gun was pointed at her. She wasn't pointing the gun at herself, because this whole story about Selena begging is ridiculous. Selena came, she wanted to, at this point, it was pretty clear, she wanted her out of her life. She wanted her papers. She had been nice as long as she could, trying to get that dang paperwork so that she could go on with her life and this woman could be eliminated. She wanted to go on with it. She's trying to get the papers from her. And my belief at that point is she realized that Selena was done with her and was demanding the papers and maybe even saying things. We don't know what Selena was saying in that room. Like, I know this, my father did not do that to you. I know you didn't get raped. You're making this stuff up. I believe that you did embezzle the money. She might have been now pissed off. And then she simply pulls the gun out of her purse, points it at Selena. Selena tries to run for it. She tries to open the door and get the hell out of there. And she shoots her. Now, did she premeditatedly shoot her? Like, if I don't, here's a possibility. If she refuses to let me stay in her life and do what I've been doing, if she refuses, that's the last thing she's going to refuse, because she's not going to beat me out on this. I will take her out. So that may be premeditated. We don't know that. The other possibility is she thought she was going to convince her, and when the thing got more and more intense, and Selena said, "I'm done with this," and then Yolanda's just pissed, so she pulls out the gun. So you can't just run away like that. And Selena starts running away, and she shoots in anger and rage. Also possible. But I'll say one thing: it's not an accident. It's not an accident, and she did everything to prepare herself for whatever might come, and then she followed it through. So that's my belief of exactly what happened with this whole incident, and what kind. I do believe she is psychopathic. She was manipulative. She was a pathological liar. She didn't like to lose. And then she did the final job when she didn't get her way. I do believe she's psychopathic, and I believe her family, all this let's have sympathy for her now, is disgusting. I think oxygen is disgusting. And I think she needs to stay exactly where she is. She has done 30 years, and we don't know if it's premeditated or not. But the fact she brought the gun, and she bought the gun, so that gun was to be used for something, and we know that all the crap about her being chased is nonsense. Secondly, she pulled the gun on Selena in the room, and then she shot her. So I'm good with life and not letting her out. Some would say, well, you can't exactly prove premeditated, so she's done 30 years, let her out. But I say I'm okay if she stays there. And I just think that putting out this documentary right before she's about to be go up for parole is disgusting. But I'll say right here, parole board, don't fall for the oxygen nonsense and her family's nonsense. Don't fall for that stuff. Understand how things really are. All right. What on earth did Selena like about Yolanda? Well, that's the thing. I bet Yolanda's really good at what she does as far as being a friend. People can be, I say the manipulativeness is really very good. She's lonely. She's on tour. She doesn't have somebody with her to hang with. And it can be very lonely. I can tell you this for sure. Having done a lot of television documentary stuff, it can be very lonely. I remember being in Egypt once. I was there for a whole month with Discovery Channel, and the production crew, the producer and the production crew were like close. And I was what's known as talent. You have the people behind the camera and the people in front of the camera. I was in front of the camera. And a lot of people who are in front of the camera aren't liked by the production people or the producer. They're like, oh, and that's their talent. Either they think you're snobby, or they think that you don't have anything common with them, or they just think they may think you're the one we use. We push you around all day long, and they do. They push you around constantly. Stand there, say this, let's do it again, let's do it again, let's do it again. And this talent, I can tell you a lot of that's not fun. It's exhausting work because you do have to repeat over and over again everything's because they're going to be editing the crap out of it. The Discovery Channel show, which was the Mysterious Death of Cleopatra, which I based my book, The Murder of Cleopatra. I then went on to write the book, not based it on, but wrote the book. I got rid of the snake in the documentary and said there was no snake. And she was not murdered either. So, she didn't commit suicide. She was murdered. I believe there's no snake and she was murdered. But that was a damn lonely month. After we finished working, I didn't even get to eat dinner with anybody. And a lot of times it was unsafe to go out by myself, and I didn't have the right clothes to go running around Cairo with, or wherever we were. When I went back a number of years later, I stayed there for another month, but I dressed completely. I was hijab and everything. I was covered, and I could walk around because I was properly dressed. I wasn't on that trip because when I did walk around, I had cameras all over me and a crew, and I could walk around pretty much in anything. But I ended up eating in the hotel, sitting by myself. It was very lonely. And a lot of times that's the way it is when you're on the road and stuff like that. It's not as much fun as people think it is. So if you can get a friend, somebody to talk with and eat with, and they're there for you, not scattered like everybody else. They're there for you. That's pretty cool. I didn't know two ways, Mike. One is the first time I had the crew with me. Second time I went back, I said I was dressed like an Egyptian woman, and people would not realize a lot of times I was not Egyptian. Now, mind you, you're going to say, but aren't you kind of pale? Yes, but there are people my complexion who are Egyptians. Maybe it's because we have some ancestry that's from Europe. Maybe we moved there a long time ago and we've lived in Europe, Egypt all our lives, and we just happen to be Caucasian looking. But because I was totally hijabi and have my arms covered, my legs covered, and I wore all Egyptian clothing, by the way. I didn't wear American clothing, try to cover up American style. I went out to the Talat Harb, which is the main street, on the first night I was there, and I just bought up my skirts and my shirts and my sweaters and my scarves, and I bought everything. And the next day when I walked out, I was Egyptian, and 90% of the harassment went down. either just because I was a lady out there and they'd call out things like, hello, where are you from? America. And then they go, Obama at the time. As I said, they scream Obama. I said Canada, and then they said Canada Dry. I guess I didn't know who was in charge of Canada at the time. But they wouldn't sell me things either because I thought I lived there. So that made a huge difference. So that's how I did that. Let's see what else you have to say. Oh, you need to see my souvenirs. I'll show them to you at Hangout coming up on Thursday. It should be 3 or 4 o'clock on Thursday. Let's see. That's funny. I think this is better for Pat now. She can talk while we cook our dinners. That's true. So, and people like to do a lot of cleaning while I talk. So, if it helps you get through the cleaning, go for it. I'm brave. Oh, I don't know about that, but okay. This is a good point. Caitlin says people who work together so many hours become enmeshed, like my job. It's like trauma bonding. There is a great truth to that. No, that's why divorce is so hard in general, because that's the person you spent all that time with. You slept in a bed with them. You had sex with them. You ate dinner with them. You went on vacations with them. You raised kids together. Even if the marriage is in the toilet, that's the person you spent all this time with. It's like somebody coming and just cutting your arm off. It's you do become enmeshed. I think that's a very good way to say it. You become enmeshed. Martina says Yolanda is a grifter, ingratiated herself to get some secondhand fame. True, and started stealing from her. Pretty disgusting. Can't argue with anything you said there. That's a very great statement all the way around. Secondhand fame. I like that. Secondhand fame. Yes. That's a lot of reasons why people get married to famous people too, because it's kind of cool, all of a sudden, you're the wife or the husband or whatever. Usually the wives have better time with that than the husbands, but you're the wife, and you're usually, some trophy wife, but hey, you get all the glamour, you get to go to the fancy places, you get to go on the yacht, you get the private jet. I mean, it could be a nice fancy life, and you do get fame, secondhand fame. And let me tell you a weird story about secondhand fame that you mentioned that, because this is so weird. So my brother-in-law, he's an ex-brother-in-law now, but was my brother-in-law, is Simon Brown. He's a famous boxer. He won 2 titles. So we were up in Atlantic City, and so people, they all knew Simon Brown was there for the fight that night, and people were very excited about that. We're sitting, the rest of the family sitting at a table, and one of the women sees me, and she said, Are you from the Brown family? I said, yes. She goes, I said, Simon Brown, you're connected to Simon Brown, which sometimes people didn't quite understand because I'm white and he's black. But anyway, but they went, oh, Simon Brown's your brother-in-law? Can I take a picture of you? And I'm like, really? Really? That's pretty pitiful. But talk about secondhand fame. It's like, oh, great. I'm famous because I'm the sister-in-law of, and you need a picture of me. Just made me laugh. It's like, what? Let's see. I'm going backwards, and I'll go back down again. Yeah, that's Clarissa. I like that. She had a plan for when things go sideways. That's another good statement. You all have good statements tonight. I like them. Yes, things could go sideways. And, she probably had a number of plans for what could possibly happen. But she also probably thought that no matter what, she should win on the first plan. So sometimes they have a lot of belief since they've been able to manipulate somebody for so long. She kept manipulating. She probably thought she would somehow get through this too, but Selena finally reached a breaking point, and she's like, no, but that was just too much. So yeah. So then things did go sideways for her, and then she went to whatever the plan was, which was either take her out so that I'll prove to her she had no right to say that to me, no right to dump me, or she thought this is or she's just so angry she pulled the trigger, just in fury because Selena was walking away from her. And the third possibility is that she did want infamy and she wanted to have her picture forever Yeah, see, it worked side by side with Selena. So if I can't be with her, I can always be remembered with her. But when people say what was going through their mind, we don't know. We're not in their heads, and they lie so much we can never be sure that whatever they tell us is true. So I can only give you those three possibilities, but I don't know which one or all of them can be true at the same time. You never know. I'll put it this way: this Yolanda, rather unsympathetic. Yeah, I kind of wanted to reach through my iPad and punch her in the face at certain points. It's just annoying as heck. Let's see. I'm going back down to the bottom now. Seriously? My grandpa was always mistaken for Babe Ruth. Finally, he gave in and signed autographs. That's pretty funny. I like that. Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who are doppelgangers, and people are so sure it's them, and they're like, trying to say no, and people aren't believing them. They're like, you just don't want us to know it's you out here at this restaurant. That must be annoying as hell. Actually, that must be really not so amusing after a while, because it's like, geez, I can't go someplace and have peace because people keep mistaking me for somebody famous. So. Uh-oh. Yeah, don't do that. Actually, some people too ask if I send out pictures, especially when I was on television a lot. They wanted signed pictures, and I never ever sent one out to anybody. And people ask why not. I'm like, I'm just too damn lazy, and I don't have somebody to run my fan club. So maybe I was picking the right thing to do here. So I don't believe any of Yo-Yo's stories. Yeah, don't leave me. Boom. Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so funny about this. Taylor says, history of being a nurse could be some Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Is there a symptom of her psychopathy? Now, many people know I've talked about this very strange thing that a lot of women who are psychopaths who exhibit Munchausen syndrome and Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Munchausen syndrome being you bring attention to yourself by harming yourself or claiming you've been harmed. Well, she did claim she was being raped and chased, so that looks like Munchausen syndrome. Again, Munchausen syndrome is not a disease. It's simply a behavior of psychopathy, and tends to be a behavior of female psychopathy. So she did exhibit Munchausen syndrome. These things are happening to me. It's also manipulative technique. So in that case, I'm not sure which way it's really going, but it always is manipulative. Let's put it that way. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is where you harm somebody else to get attention, which is often babies in hospitals, your own children, whether you hurt them or you kill them, you're going to get sympathy. If you kill them, it's like, everybody's like, oh no, you lost your baby. The baby died of SIDS. That's just terrible. And you're like, yeah, when I put the pillow over its face, it did. But you get all the sympathy, and then you get pregnant again. You get more, oh, you're pregnant. Then you get attention. Then you have the baby, and then it's cute, and you get attention. And then the baby's annoying, so you kill it. Now you get attention again with the funeral. Works out nice. Some people do hospital stuff, where they kill babies in hospitals, or the recent one in Virginia, where the woman was breaking babies' legs. Get attention, everybody's rushing, and you did it, or you get attention because you saved the child, whatever you're getting your attention with. So that's Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Sometimes people will torture their own child forever and ever and ever as they're growing up, and keep taking them to the doctor for made up symptoms and stuff like that. It's horrible. So Munchausen syndrome, I can see that in her claims of rape and being chased. Munchausen syndrome by proxy, no, there wasn't somebody else she was harming and then getting attention off of that. So Munchausen syndrome, yes. Where would that one go? Oh, I just saw something go by. Oh, that's an interesting point. They need to audit her employment to see if there are any suspicious patients cases. Yeah, you never know. Yeah. I mean, again, nurses are great people. Most nurses are wonderful. Thank God for nurses. Hard job. I'm amazed at how kind some of the nurses are, many of the nurses. So luckily, it's not the majority of you. But in every profession, you got these tweakers, somebody who's off in your profession. Profilers too. somebody said, sometimes it looks like a few profiles out, it might have a thin line between that and psychopathy themselves. Not me, but so there's these thin lines. And so, that's why sometimes you'll get pedophiles in teachers in elementary school, because they have access to children. Most teachers are not that, but then you get those. Anesthesiologists, some of them like to off their patients, and nurses, some of them. So yes, I think if somebody turns out to be a killer, it might be worthwhile looking back to make sure that when they were at the hospital, they didn't doing a whole bunch of people, and you have this unexplained deaths while they were on duty. Yeah, that's true, but probably they're not going to do it because it's a lot of work. So Yolanda had 30 years behind bars to think up some of the crazy claims, like Selena telling her to write checks to herself to buy plane tickets. Yeah, that one's the most noticeable one, Rainey. A lot of this stuff, the crazy stuff, was already told before she even went into prison. Stuff she told to Selena, stuff she told other people about, the chasing and the rapes and stuff like that. But she had 30 years to come up with a better story. Actually, she really didn't come up with a better story, except the check thing is like the only thing she did. She mostly what she did, which is interesting, mostly she just blamed everybody else. She's always the victim. If you actually look at all the statements she makes, she's always the victim of something or somebody. She's never at fault for, she always did things right. So, like for example, the father, he was ruining her, not that she ruined herself. She's being lied about by all the store people. She's being unfairly treated. She's being raped. She's being this, she's being that. Every single thing, even afterwards, she's sitting in the vehicle, she's trying to make herself out a victim. And after she did it was an accident, then she went on sitting in that vehicle saying that she was being chased and harassed and by the family. So even after she killed Selena, she's now attacking her family, saying, I'm the victim of her family. So she's always the victim, always. So lovely person. I wouldn't be surprised though if she gets out, just because oxygen will have some effect on a lot of people. Now, a lot of people don't seem to, her fans aren't falling for it, but a lot of other people who say you should forgive, and it was an accident. You could see that she cared about her a lot, and she just, she was under such stress, and she was so freaked out. Maybe she was really being chased. Maybe this, maybe that. Parole board might let her out. So, no, crap brown. Yeah, no, that wasn't I didn't make that faux pas. No, the host of the show, I can't remember, it was Alexandria. I can't remember. I think it was MSNBC. She finished the segment and she goes, and she meant to say, she was trying to say criminal profiler Pat Brown, but she got stuck with a crook, and she went to Pat and she got screwed up. She goes, well, thank you very much, Crap Brown. and then we went to break, but I knew I had to come back, and I was so hysterical in there. I'm like, how am I going to go back on and not just burst out laughing again? So I'm like, biting on my teeth and slapping myself, causing myself as much pain as possible to try to come back on. Because when we came back, she goes, okay, well, profiler Pat Brown is on with us. I think, again, Pat, we went right on with this next segment, but criminal profiler Crap Brown, that was funny. And so I put up the clip I think the clip is up there. I put up the clip, and my haters came in and said, yeah, that's what she is. She got it out right. I thought it was funny. Yeah, a lot of funny stuff. Well, if I really want to make myself laugh, I love to watch news bloopers. I mean, I just sit there and news bloopers are the best. I don't know why they're so funny, but and then when the news people lose it and can't control themselves and can't get back together, and they're laughing so hard they can't continue, I just sit there and I'm hysterical in my bed watching this stuff. I mean, if you want to cheer yourself up, watch news bloopers. It's all the best news bloopers. Great stuff for putting a smile on your face. So, she admitted guilt. She said, I killed her. She admitted she killed her. It was just happened to be an accident. She didn't intend to kill her. She was just waving toward the door, and the gun went off. See? You can't prove. See, you can't prove that's not true. True. Actually, you cannot prove that's not true. If she had cocked it to shoot herself in the head, and then she's like, "No, close the door," and she went like this. The gun could have gone off, not because it's easy to make it go off, but because she did pull the trigger because she's an idiot, and she says she didn't know how to use guns, and she was supposedly, somebody said she trained at the went to the gun range, but I don't know if that's true. I saw only where the place showed her how to use it responsibly or whatever. But if she went like that and pulled the trigger and in her panic, rage, whatever, it could have been accidental. I can't say it wasn't accidental. So, that's what a defense attorney tried to say. I personally don't think it was accidental because I think she was running out of there. I don't think she was closing the door at all. I think she was desperately opening up the door and trying to get out. So I think that's her story now, what backs up how it could be accidental. But it's very hard to exactly prove what happened, except that she shot Selena. She pulled the gun out and she did shoot Selena. So there you go. You're either useful or in the way. Put that on a t-shirt for merch. People keep telling me to do merch. I haven't had the energy, it helps when you have a team. It's just me and I can only do so much. So, I haven't had the energy to try to put up a merch store and get all that stuff done. But that would be a cool t-shirt. That would be my t-shirt for sure. Well, that's true. Waving a loaded gun near someone. She's responsible for shooting her. The question always comes down to motive and exactly what happened in that moment. Apparently, considering her pack of lies and all the other things, the jury thought it wasn't an accident. And do I think it was an accident? No, I don't. I think I would go. Most of me thinks it was not an accident, possibly premeditated if things don't go sideways, or massive rage, or how dare you, or infamy. I mean, there's way more reasons for her to shoot that gun other than it was an accident. So I would lean toward all the other ones, but nothing can be absolutely proven. So I'm kind of surprised she actually got 30 years, got life, because she could have gotten manslaughter on that, second degree or something. But it doesn't help when you shoot down Selena. She believed that it was all, she was already. It was the media and the public had already condemned her before she got in the courtroom, which is probably true, by the way. No question about it. People hated her, and it was obvious and clear. So yeah, they had already found her guilty before she went in the courtroom. That is true. She's right about that. Psychopaths can be right occasionally. People always go, "See, she's telling the truth, so therefore the rest is the truth." No, that's what the family's trying to say. See, she told the truth about this. I'm like, she told the truth about one thing. Doesn't make you a truth teller. It just means you can't. Some things are just you can't be wrong about. It's just a fact. So you tell a fact, but then you make up a whole bunch of other stuff that aren't facts. So. Yeah, but they definitely, the public and the media had definitely, they hated her. They still hate her. There was a lot of theories that if she got out, she'd be shot. Somebody would take her out. Highly possible. Molly says, yes, guns always fire themselves when waved. She had her finger on the trigger, which would not be accidental. Everything she did was not an accident. I agree. I just say, in a court of law, it can be tricky. If you every once in a while watch a movie where you see whoever has got the gun and they're going in and when somehow they're going into a house, not properly trained police, but somebody, and you're not supposed to put your finger on the trigger, But I've seen things where people are walking around with a finger on the trigger. You're like, what are you doing? So she says she hasn't been trained. So could she, having put that to her head, put her finger on the trigger, planning to pull the trigger, and then she went, don't look, and it went off. It's possible. I don't think it's probable, but it's possible. I can't eliminate that as a possibility. So that certainly would have been a good defense for her. But with everything else, the jury believes she lured her there and took her out. And was she lured? Well, she certainly was making it hard. She wasn't giving back the paperwork, and she's having reasons to have her keep coming there and trying to get her there alone. So that is kind of alluring the person. I have something you want, you better show up. Or you're not going to get it back. And then you arrive there and the person waves a gun in your face and says, now you're going to do this, you're going to do that. So the story inside the room about her putting the gun to her head is a pretty good story for if you want to make it into an accidental death. So that's not a bad story. It's about the only story, as a matter of fact, that she could come up with to make it be an accidental death. I wasn't planning to kill her. I was planning to kill myself. I had my finger on the trigger, and then I waved at the door and it went off. I didn't mean to kill her. It's a good story. I don't think it's true, but it's a good story. We're planning to form a fan club. That's okay. You can skip that. I just like having you here. That's interesting point. Interesting that you say this, Leslie. She was small, so even a 38, I mean, would for me would be hard. But she might be stronger than me. But still, she had a gun and ready to use. I'll tell you a story about 38. So I'm going down to Masad Ayub's training for guns. He's a police trainer. I went down to North Carolina for a week for his whole week training program, which you get a certificate for having gone to Masad Ayub's program. And I wanted to get the best. He was one of the best trainers. So I go there, I bring a 38, get out on the range. I can't pull the trigger to save my life. My hands, I have very weak hands. I've never had strong hands. It's a kind of a joke with everybody. I've really got weak hands. I couldn't pull the damn trigger. So I'm aiming at the target and I'm like, I couldn't do it. It was horrible. So somebody had to lend me their 9mm so I could actually shoot. And it turned out I was a very good shot. I could shoot very well with my right hand and my left hand. I was a good shot, but I couldn't pull the trigger on the 38. So I don't own that 38 anymore because it would serve zero purpose for me at all. I was like, nah. So now I own a Smith & Wesson 9mm, so I can use that one. So it's a good point. How good was she at pulling triggers? I don't know. But then if you're really enraged, and maybe she has way stronger hands than me, so she could do it. But it's not as easy as a 9mm. It's a good point. Well, that's true. She wasn't small. She was kind of hefty. Well, that's just weight. That's not, whether she's built strong with strong hands. My daughter is a beautiful, tall-ish woman but her hands are, she comes, whatever Jamaican stuff she's got rolling through her body. My mother-in-law was bedbound. She's disabled for back damage. But she was a Jamaican woman who grew up on a farm, and she could crush things in her hand. She was amazing. So my daughter's like that. I'm like, dang, So, but I will lose if you lose I'm right down to the table. I suck at that. Well, that's true. If you already have it cocked, that's true. But if you're just having to shoot it, yeah, that's true. But good point. It's been a long time since I've even dealt with that. So I'm maybe forgetting how things work. So anyway, that's it. Those are my thoughts on this case. And yeah, I hope she doesn't get out. That's my personal opinion, but I'd be surprised because they're going to look at, she's been there for 30 years. 30 years is a long time, 3 decades for what might be an accidental death. And she's now in her 60s. They may think she's done enough time. She could go home now and has the right to a little bit left of her life. And now that the documentary has come out, I'm sure that it might have some positive influence. So, excuse me again. I feel fine. I just have this weird tickle throat thing. So anyway, so that's it for today. So thank you all for being here. The hangout this week will be on Wednesday, as I said. And hopefully I won't be choking through the whole thing. I think I ought to go before I try to talk anymore. So, see you next time, guys. And if you're still here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. Okay, bye, everybody.